The house sat quietly at the edge of Maplewood, a small American town where seasons passed like whispered secrets. The streets outside were calm, children pedaled bicycles in circles, and the smell of freshly cut grass drifted in the air. Inside the two-story wooden house, an old woman sat in her armchair by the window, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a porcelain coffee cup. Her silver hair was tied back, her eyes clouded but alert. To anyone passing by, she looked like any ordinary grandmother enjoying her morning, but to her, mornings always carried the weight of a memory that never loosened its grip. 13 years ago, this very morning, her daughter had left 3 children on her porch. Just for an hour, Mama, she had said with a casual smile, as though it were nothing unusual. 3 wide-eyed little ones had stood there holding backpacks, too big for their shoulders. 2 girls and a boy, all under 10. The grandmother had kissed their foreheads and waved to her daughter, as the car disappeared down the street. The hour never ended. Days passed, weeks, months, the children stayed. Their laughter filled the halls. Their cries echoed through sleepless nights. Their little hands reached for her as though she were the only anchor in their world. And though her heart ached with betrayal, she chose silence, chose sacrifice. She raised them as her own. But today, 13 years later, the silence was about to break. The knock came at exactly 9 a.m. The grandmother's heart lurched. When she opened the door, her breath froze. There stood her daughter, older, sharper, dressed in a navy blue suit, and beside her, a man in a gray suit carrying a briefcase. His eyes were cold, his words even colder. "Mrs. Harris," he said flatly, "you are being accused of kidnapping." The grandmother staggered back. "Kidnapping?" Her voice cracked. "I raised them. I gave them a home. You left them." Her daughter's eyes flashed with something between guilt and steel. "Those are my children." Hours later, they sat in the courtroom. The air was heavy, every whisper echoing like thunder. The 3 grandchildren, now teenagers, sat on the other side. Their faces confused, hurt, afraid. They had never truly asked why their mother disappeared, why Grandma always avoided the details. They had grown up thinking she was gone for reasons too painful to speak. Now the truth hovered like a storm ready to break. The lawyer presented papers. The mother spoke of deception, of theft, of childhood. The grandmother sat silently, her wrinkled hands folded tightly, until finally the judge turned toward her. "Mrs. Harris," the judge said gently, "do you have anything to present?" Her heart pounded. For years she had kept it hidden, tucked away in the bottom drawer of her desk, an envelope yellowed with age, sealed with tape that had grown brittle. She reached into her bag and placed it on the table. The courtroom fell silent. She slid it across. "Your Honor," she whispered, "this was left with me the day she walked away." The judge's fingers trembled slightly as he opened it. Inside was a letter handwritten, dated 13 years earlier. It bore the daughter's signature. The words were clear. "Mama, I can't do this anymore. The children are better with you. Don't try to find me. Don't tell them. Maybe one day I'll come back, but if I don't, raise them as your own." The judge's eyes widened. He read it twice, then a third time. Finally, he looked up, his voice soft, shaken. "Do they know about this?" The grandmother's lips quivered. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "Not yet." Gasps filled the room. The grandchildren shifted in their seats, their faces pale. The daughter's lawyer tried to speak, but his voice faltered. The mother stared at the letter as if it were a dagger aimed at her chest. The grandmother looked toward the 3 teenagers, the ones she had tucked into bed, nursed through fevers, guided through school projects, comforted through nightmares. Her voice trembled as she finally broke the silence of 13 years. "I never wanted you to grow up thinking your mother abandoned you," she said. "I wanted you to believe she loved you, that she had her reasons. I carried that burden so you wouldn't have to. Every day, I hoped she'd come back. For you." The eldest grandchild, Sarah, now 17, stood slowly. Her eyes glistened. "Grandma." All this time, her mother reached for her. "Sarah, listen to me." But Sarah stepped back. "No, Mom, you left. You told her to raise us. And now you want to take us away from the only person who's ever been there?" Her voice cracked, but it carried the weight of years of unspoken pain. The courtroom erupted into murmurs. The judge raised his gavel but paused, watching the scene unfold. The youngest grandson, barely a child when it happened, spoke next. "Grandma, did you ever hate her for leaving us?" The grandmother's face softened. "No, sweetheart. I hated the pain it caused you, but I never hated her. She gave me the greatest gift. She gave me you." The words broke the room. Even the lawyer shifted uncomfortably, clearing his throat. The mother's composure cracked. Tears rolled down her cheeks. For the first time in years, her armor fell away. "I thought I was saving you," she whispered. "I was drowning. I couldn't handle being a mother. And every year that passed, it got harder to come back. But you came back," the judge said quietly, and with an accusation instead of an apology. Silence again. The daughter lowered her head. The letter lay between them, like a mirror reflecting every failure, every truth. The judge leaned forward. "These children are almost grown. They have a right to choose where they belong. But I can tell you this, no law in this land will call what she did kidnapping. What she did was sacrifice." The gavel struck. The decision was made. The grandmother exhaled, her whole body trembling with relief and sorrow. The grandchildren rushed to her side, wrapping their arms around her fragile frame. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to cry, not quietly in her room at night, but openly with the family she had fought to protect. Her daughter stood frozen, watching the scene she had once walked away from. She whispered through her tears, "I'm sorry, Mama." The grandmother met her eyes. "It's not me you need to apologize to." The daughter turned toward her children, but they were clinging to their grandmother, unwilling to let go. The choice had already been made. Later that evening, back in the quiet wooden house, the grandmother sat once more by the window. The three teenagers were scattered around the living room, one scrolling through homework on a laptop, another strumming a guitar. The youngest sprawled on the rug with a book. Life went on, messy and beautiful. She looked down at the empty envelope now resting on the table. It had been her shield, her secret, her burden. Now it was their truth. As the last light of evening filtered through the curtains, she whispered a prayer of gratitude, not for winning a case, not for proving herself right, but for the chance to have loved so deeply, to have raised three souls who would never doubt the meaning of family. And though the scars of betrayal would never vanish, the love in that room was louder, stronger, unbreakable. The grandmother closed her eyes. Tomorrow would come with new questions, new challenges. But tonight, for the first time in 13 years, she felt at peace.